Hi, I'm Kelly Quiney, and this is Stepping Off the Path. Stories of women who stopped living by everyone else's rules and chose themselves instead. A quick note before we begin. Today's conversation includes honest reflections on divorce, burnout, and job loss. Today I'm speaking with Dianna Hanken, travel blogger, certified travel advisor and coach, TEDx speaker, and author of The Destiny Path: From Being Alone to Coming Home. Years ago, Dianna walked away from a life that looked perfect on paper because inside she felt unseen and empty. Then, in 2024, she did it again. Sold up, packed 3 small bags with her partner, and set out on a 6-month soul-led journey through the Americas. 3 weeks in, she lost her 6-figure job and chose to listen, trust, and act instead of scrambling. This episode is about what happens when you choose truth over appearances and how listening to your inner wisdom, trusting it, and acting on it can change everything. Let's dive in. Uh, Today's guest, Dianna Hanken, is a woman who has stepped off the path not once, but twice, each time more courageously than before. Dianna is a travel blogger, certified travel advisor, coach, TEDx speaker, and author of The Destiny Path: From Being Alone to Coming Home. She helps women in midlife reconnect with freedom, joy, and soul through meaningful, intentional travel. Her first turning point came years ago when she walked away from the life that looked perfect on paper. Marriage, career, but she felt hollow inside. That act of courage led to deep healing, her first book, and her 2020 TEDx talk, introducing her transformational framework, Listen, Trust, Act. Then, in 2024, Dianna followed that same inner compass again. After selling her home and putting her things in storage, she and her partner set out on a 6-month soul-led journey through the Americas. She planned to work remotely, but just weeks in, she was downsized from her 6-figure job. Instead of scrambling for the next role, she chose to live her own method: listen, trust, and act. That leap became Travels with Spirit, her blog and growing community inspiring women to create their own aligned adventures. Through all of it, Dianna's story reminds us that sometimes Spirit calls us to step off the path twice: once to break free, and again to expand. Dianna, welcome to Stepping Off the Path.
Oh, thank you so much, Kelly. I appreciate you and I love being here.
So good to have you. And we should say you are calling in from Italy?
Yes, I am actually on the island of Sicily. It is a dream come true at the age of 54. I've wanted to come here since I was a little girl, and I am finally here after all of this time.
Yay. So just to start, Dianna, to go back in your story, the book that you wrote, it begins with a feeling that many women will recognize, which is having a good life, yet feeling unseen and empty. And what was the moment you knew that you couldn't keep living that way?
That is such a powerful question because I did on the outside have that perfect life. I was married for over 20 years, have 2 kids, had a career in real estate, which I had had for years. We had the beautiful home, we had world travel, and I was just completely unhappy. And I just felt stuck and I was depressed. And it's tough because on the outside, everybody's like, what do you have to complain about? You have everything. But sometimes we start our lives and we kind of go down a path that we feel is, will quote, be the right thing. But over time, it's not really what our soul wants. And it was just this big inner push within myself that I knew that I just could not continue on this path. My health
Hmm.
started to deteriorate. I was tired all the time. And I really didn't want to show my kids that this is a relationship. Like I wanted to show them a different type of relationship as well.
Yeah.
So that was probably my biggest catalyst, was wanting to show my kids something different.
Hmm.
And at the same time, it's what created this life that I love now. But at the time, it seemed impossible.
Yeah. And like I can really hear that, the pull and the wanting to be the example for your kids. So walking away from a 20-year marriage and the successful career, that's a real act of self-trust, like radical self-trust. And what did it take to honor that inner voice, and how did you find the courage to act on it?
Wow. A lot of quiet time, meditation. I studied a lot. I studied with a lot of different people out there, and I'm sure your listeners may have people that they love to go to that gives them inspiration and different things that sort of helps them. But the quiet time and the meditation and getting quiet within myself was probably the biggest piece. But
Hmm.
then after that, I started to learn how to have connection with other people. And so I found a community of women where I was actually seen and heard really for the first time in my life. And then that
Yeah.
gave me that outside external piece that I needed to be able to come back to over and over in order to really be able to connect with myself. So it's both, right? It's kind of that inner journey, getting quiet, listening
Hmm.
to my voice, but then also having an outside structure of that external as well.
Mm. Because you said there the first one of the first times you started to connect with others. So was it up until that point, did you not have as many outside connections? Was that an area that was a struggle for you?
Well, again, on the outside, it looked good. I had some,
Right.
long term friends, long term relationships, but they weren't at the level and depth of where I was going. And so I outgrew those relationships very quickly. And then I felt very alone. There were many years, like years, where I felt all by myself. No one
Mm.
understands me. No one knows what I'm going through. So it was that cycle of coming back to myself. And
Mm.
then also, I also had a very powerful coach that I found, right? So there was some kind of divine intervention there as well. So I kind of had that one on one support. She wasn't a therapist, she was more of a spiritual coach. And then
Yeah.
that helped me as well. So all of these little breadcrumbs were really spirit led, because when I would really feel like I cannot go on anymore, like I don't know, spirit would drop in something. They would drop in a YouTube video, right? Or they would
Mm.
drop in someone along my path who led me to the next person, who then led me to that, right? So looking back, I knew that spirit was really directing me the entire time. And it was just me getting comfortable being able to hear it and then trust that and then follow
Mm.
that direction. Because, and if I can help your listeners do anything, it's to shorten that window, right? Shorten that time of when
Yeah.
they want to step into something new. It's really getting quiet within yourself, learning to trust what you hear, and then courageously acting on what you hear, because
Mm.
spirit will lead the way for you, and whatever you call it, right? Some call it God, goddess, nature, universe, whatever you call the term. For me, I feel there is a benevolent force out there, and I tend to call it
Yeah.
spirit, that is guiding me. And
Right.
when I learn to trust that and flow with it, everything becomes so much easier.
Wow. I love that. I can hear the stillness and becoming aware of that. Do you think now, looking back, that spirit was there with you in the phase of your life where 20 years, marriage, career, all the stuff? And that you just didn't see it or hear it? Can you see places? where it was?
Absolutely. So I was actually Catholic for pretty much my entire adulthood. Like I was, they call it a cradle Catholic, you know. So I was born Catholic, raised Catholic. I sang in the church choir for 10 years through my 30s. So I was
Wow.
always connected to religion and God. But then, kind of in my late 30s, I transitioned out of the religious piece more into the spiritual, trusting myself and the wisdom of spirit. So it
Mhm.
was less of having an external force tell me what to believe or hear, and it was more of me trusting, going upward, from my energy upward into the cosmos and connecting with that. So I've always been trusting of that God source, that God energy, but it changed in my late 30s,
Mm.
if that makes sense. Is that clear?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, it does, absolutely. And so what do you think from that first piece where you really started to notice and pay attention, what did it sort of teach you about listening to spirit and trusting yourself?
It really is a practice. And if I can impart anything, it's something that you need to devote time to. And it doesn't have to be a lot of time each day, but depending on where you are. So I started meditating since I was 18. Some people now, even to this day, they're like, I can't get quiet. I can't get quiet for 5 minutes. But even taking 5 minutes a day, turning off your phone, just get, even if you have to go in a closet and shut the door, like if you have kids or something like that, and just starting to bring the energy back to yourself because we're so geared, especially as women, to be very external facing and
Mhm,
feeling like that's where we get our worth. If I do more, if I take care of the kids, if I have the job, if I do the thing, then I'm going to be getting that external validation. What I would like to invite you into is starting to bring that internal validation to yourself. Because when you can get quiet and get into the practice and the habit of listening to yourself first, that's where the
mhm,
right answer will always come. That's where the right and I love to use the phrase highest and best. That's where your highest and best next step will come from. And when you can start to transition yourself from external focus to internal, listening to that, that's where things will start to flow more easily for you.
mhm. And I'm really interested in and I think a lot of women would really benefit to hear, staying in the life that you were in for 20 years, what do you think it was, that kept you there and finding self-compassion for that?
Societal pressure, family pressure, what are you doing? You have a perfect life. Why would you blow this up? Um, eh, so the societal pressure of being perfect, I was very accomplished. Was and still am a doer. I love to do, I love to create, I love to do things like that. But
Mhm,
it got to the point where it was so draining, it wasn't filling me up because I was just on hyper speed. And doing more does not mean doing it well. and and I think my kids would have appreciated me doing less, right? Because when I'm calm and centered and can be in a place that's more open, loving, and giving, it just ripples out. And I think society pushes us, especially in the States. I know many of your listeners may kind of be in kind of the New Zealand, Australia area, but where I live in the States, it's very much around doing and marketing and that next thing. And so learning how to break that chain and not having
mhm,
the external societal pressures is how I was able to start to break that pattern.
mm, mm. And how was it for you in the aftermath of leaving that life behind?
So I'll be really honest with you. And the first few years after the divorce was very hard. It was not easy at all. I didn't have much family support. I lost a lot of my friendships because I was seen in one way. And when everything in that structure, kind of in that silo, starts to break down, then I'm recreating my life in a different way. And I don't want that to scare the women from stepping off that path into something new because it is absolutely worth it. Getting the right support and structures is going to help you be able to move through that more quickly. And I am so happy and fulfilled and able to create in this life right now that that pain was so worth the joy on the other side of it. And so yes, it's not going to be roses and perfect and all of that, but it is a practice and a choice to continue on this path. And this is where you will truly live your most fulfilled life. And
Mm,
if you're
mm,
feeling that struggle, if you're feeling that tension, it's not going to go away. So you're not going to be able to get out of that because your soul is trying to direct you onto that next path. So instead of trying to
mm.
fight it and spend years spinning and like, oh, I'll just stay until retirement, or I'll just wait till the kids are off to college, or I'll just wait. Don't wait because you're only prolonging what will inevitably happen anyway. So why not start
Yeah.
to go through that now and move more quickly through it now?
It's interesting when I'm hearing you speak, I'm really hearing the listen, trust act come out in what you're describing in the aftermath. And I was thinking then your TEDx talk in 2020, right? That's quite a big deal.
Yes.
So that come about, really?
So I didn't know it at the time, but I was literally following spirit and I was following kind of what the next steps were. So I had taken an 18-month leadership coaching and facilitation training. And during that process, that is one of the areas where I really found kind of the women that really support me. And they actually support me to this day. So I have a group of 4 other women that I meet with almost every Tuesday. And we've been doing this for about 8 years now. And so
Wow.
they are like my lifeline and, my community of people. And so at the end of this training, I was doing an exercise and I just got this voice in my head that says, you're going to write a book. And I was like, what? Like, I hadn't ever thought about writing a book. I didn't care to write a book. And it was like, no, you're going to write a book. And I'm like, okay. But it was still a very new concept for me at the time because I'm like, what is this? What am I listening to? It was just very, confusing. And I was like, okay, that's weird. And well, literally the next day, Kelly, it was just this push and it's like, go down to your computer. And I literally wrote for 7 hours straight. I had a few appointments that day. I canceled them. And I literally just wrote a book in 7 hours at my computer in a day. So
The whole
that
book,
was
7
the entire
hours.
book. Yes,
Wow.
in 7 hours. Now, it's not a very big book, but it was the act and the exercise of learning to trust, right? Because I
Yeah.
could have ignored that and gone to my appointments that day and just skipped over it, but I chose to trust it. And I took the time and the space to actually sit down and write.
Wow.
So then through that process, it then took me a few months to then get the book out and I self published the book. And so that gave me a little platform.
Mm.
Then after the book was out, and that was a big break for me into being visible. It was a very authentic, heartfelt book. I put a lot into that book. And so that was an exercise as well, right? Like, so
Mm.
the steps are you have to learn to just trust the steps and trust what's coming next because it may not make
Yeah.
sense. It may be sound completely weird and off the wall, but really if you trust it's the highest and best step, then it will lead you there. So
Mhm.
because of that book, then I really wanted to speak. And then Spirit said, okay, well, here's a little 3-month class. You can take on learning how to be a TEDx speaker. And so I took that class. And then I got a coach from that class that helped me polish the script for the TEDx. And then I applied. And then so all of these pieces that I was being led to do led me then to the TED stage. But if I hadn't have had the
Right.
book, I wouldn't have been able to get the TED talk because I had to
Yeah.
have credibility in what I was speaking to in order to land the stage. So I couldn't have skipped over the book to get the TED stage. So at the time, I really was following the proper right path, even though it didn't seem like it was, quote, the proper right path. But
Mm.
there you go.
And I would add, Diana's TED Talk is amazing, and it will be linked at the bottom of this episode. It's well worth a watch. I just love you explaining that, Diana, because you listened, you watched for signs, you trusted, and you acted, and here you are. You've written a book, you've given a speech. You've got your platform out there, and what a great basis to have that underpinning what you do. And I'm really hearing that it you're so deeply aligned when you're speaking about it. I can
Mm.
hear it. And I think fast forwarding right to 2024, where you've sold your home, you plan to travel for 6 months, and then 3 weeks in, you lose your job. How has Listen, Trust, Act guided you through that moment?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So, um, I, after my divorce, I was a single mom for the next 9 years, but my intention was always to find a partner, right? I really still wanted to have that love relationship. And that was a big driving force for me, but that was not showing up. And so I really had to learn to trust the timing of that as well, because I really wanted to have something sooner, but it wasn't happening. And so now looking
Mhm.
back, I understand again, spirit was leading the whole way because I couldn't be with this man in this partnership now and have the life that we have together any sooner than what actually happened. So just because something isn't showing up for you, I want to encourage everyone to know, trust that, right? Trust divine timing because things will show up when you're energetically ready for it and when it's the proper timing. So when I sold my home, I was starting to downsize. So my youngest kid went off to college. And so I wanted to bank some of the savings from my home and put that in so I can start to grow that. And then
Mhm.
I went to an apartment. And then my partner, Tim, and I then decided, okay, we have the freedom now to be able to travel. His son is out of college as well. And so now we're able to travel for 6 months out of the year. And he was able to retire early. So he was all set. And here we go. So we're like, great. So we're going to go follow sun and beaches and do this. I had picked locations and places where I would be able to work remotely. Everything was lined up. Then, so here we go. We're going to take our first 6-month adventure. And yep, 3 weeks in, I get downsized from my job. And I'm like, what is going on here? And it was a shock. I had no idea that that would be happening. I felt very secure in the position that I had.
Mhm.
And now looking back, it was the most perfect thing that could have ever happened to me because then it gave me
Wow.
the freedom on the road to really be able to experience the travel and really
Mm.
shift now into my relationship with Tim and be able to kind of work that piece of my life and really be able to start to enjoy that. Because when you're traveling, and prior to this, Kelly, we had not lived together before. So here we
Ah,
are living together for the
wow.
first time, traveling. And and we had been together for a couple of years at this point, but not officially like in the same household. So can you imagine traveling to a foreign country, the stress of
No,
that on top of living together for the first time. And then if I'm trying to work on top of it, so again, what looked like a horrendous thing actually ended up being amazing. Was offered an opportunity within a couple of weeks with a new company, a full-time role that I could have done on the road. And I really had to pause and go, okay, what do I want in my life right now? So at the time I was 53. This was last year. I'm 54 now. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take this time for me because I can always generate income. So am I
hmm
going to work on working full time and doing retirement, or am I going to pause and say less is more? Cut back on my expenses. I already had, I didn't have any expenses back home because I gave up my apartment. My few things were in storage. And so I
mm.
trusted that. And so I decided to go ahead and just give myself that time, and it ended up being perfect. Yeah,
It's the energy and intention when you explain that is so different to how it could have been because you lose your job, panic. In my mind, I'm panic. You're offered a full-time job, brilliant. And it would be so easy to jump on that, but you found time to sit still, rest, embodying again, listen, trust, act, which is not act, I guess, is not always having to take the thing that's in front of you. And I think the energy and the intention behind how you explain that is so different to how it could have been if you were acting with urgency. And I think there's so much about that. And I wonder, what have you learned about surrender and co-creating with spirit when the plan falls apart?
exactly. Beautiful question, because we are co-creating with life all the time. And spirit wants us to have what we want, right? Like, so my desire was to be able to support myself because I'm paying for myself on this travel, right? So
Mhm,
I'm taking care of myself and my needs and my bills. And I could have gone into that fear mode. And what really stuck with me is looking back on my entire life, spirit has always had me. So it kind of went back to your question when you even asked me, even back when you were, through the marriage and all of that, like I really took the time to
mhm.
look back and I'm like, it has always worked out. Spirit has always had me when I have
Wow.
trusted what it's telling me. So why would I doubt that now? It's giving me the opportunity to breathe. I was a single mom for 9 years. My kids are in college now, right? I was smart with my you know, finances now. Am I at a place that I can retire? No, but I know that I will make that up because it's
Mm,
always been there for me. And so
mhm,
now I'm choosing to be more creative and write more and really step into the things that I truly love, because I know from
mhm,
there that's when things will grow because I want them to grow, right? Spirit wants me to have what I want, again, if
mhm.
it's in highest and best. So that is always my prayer whenever when I ask for these things is show me the way, show me highest and best, and that's the way that I will go.
It's really interesting hearing, like, I think back to Diana in 2020, who got the spirit or indication to write the book, do the TEDx talk. With everything you've been through from then until now, how has your understanding of the framework of listen, trust, act, how has it deepened since then?
So I mentioned it previously, it's a practice and it's a choice. And I will say that over and over and over. This is a practice and it's a choice. You have 10, 15 different options every day of what you can do. You have free will. And that is what I love about being a soul on this planet is every single person has the autonomy and the free will to do whatever they want. I want to lead my life and live my life in a way that's aligned with the light, in a way that's going to bring highest and best my energy. How can I affect people in a way, in the most positive way that I can while I'm here? And because of that, I want to be aligned with that higher wisdom of myself, that inner knowing that I have aligned with the highest and best for the planet and consciousness and humanity as a whole. So I have to practice this just like anyone would practice yoga or an exercise routine or meditation or whatever you want to do with your life. And it gets easier and easier and easier. And the more you
Mm.
do it that way, it just gets easier and easier. And then you pivot more quickly and you're like, oh, that didn't work out. What's the next thing? Okay, great. I wasn't supposed to go that way. Great. Thank you for showing me so quickly. Show me the other best way that I can go. Right. And
Mm.
that
Mm.
for me is where the freedom and the joy comes from because it's not me pushing my way through life. It's flowing in a way where it's like, oh, thank you for showing me so quickly. I didn't need to have that job. Great. What's the next best thing now? And then
Mhm.
pivot, move, and it just moves so fast. And it's so much fun because you really just have magic then every day of your life because that's what you're in tune with. That's what you're aligned for. That's where you want to be going and living a
Mm.
life of freedom and joy and fun.
I'm really glad that you mentioned practice because it could be easy or, somebody who's not as far along in practice in whatever their, modality may be, that it's not suddenly you wake up, okay, this is easy. I'm gonna trust and act and all of these things just in place, but it's practice, right? Because when you were speaking, I was thinking, well, has it been challenging? Like, was it challenge to learn to listen and trust and act?
Yes, absolutely. This was not like an easy thing. When I was starting to write the book and then I started to really be able to hear more clearly, right? Like I was able to start to hear and these things would just come into my head and I'm like, am I going crazy? Like what's happening right now? But it was like, no, I'm trying to direct you on the best next path. Just listen to me. Because I was so used to pushing. I was so used to doing it my way. I was so used to making things happen kind of in that system and in that structure. But we as women, I have found we're really taught to work in that external do system instead of
Mhm,
that quiet inner system. And so that's what I
mhm.
want to bring back into balance for particularly women is to really know how to use this inner wisdom because we aren't taught to use it. Men, of course, have it as well too, but they have like a different process that they use with that. Whereas I
Mhm.
think with women, it's a little bit easier for us to tap into this when we take the time to. Yeah.
Yeah, and you've hit on something really good, time, right? Time seems to be something that we say a lot, "Well, I haven't got enough time," when I've got the time. And like, how do you manage to or even back then, how did you manage to stop, and just let it happen?
I was having health issues. So my thyroid was starting to shut down. And so I
Right.
was exhausted. And I think for a lot of women, health issues start to come up first because our bodies literally cannot handle the stress and the
Mhm.
pressure and the doing of what we do every single day. And so I think that's probably the first flag that I would start to see. Um, and
Mhm.
I was always like healthy, right? I ate well, I exercise all the time. And looking back, holy cow, I would do 2 to 2.5 times of what a person would do in one day just because I
Wow.
was trying to live that perfect life and do it all and literally running myself into the ground.
Mhm.
So I think that had to make me pause. Right? So
Yeah.
then when I would sleep and that was starting to slow me down. And so that's why I want to really encourage women, don't wait until you get to that point. Or if you are at
Yeah.
that point where you're exhausted, okay, now is the time to really start to shift out of that and do what you need to do for you in order to get healthy and well and take that time. Because otherwise, you will have that catastrophic thing happens, or you will break a leg where you will have to be in bed for 3 months because spirit's trying to slow you down and it will
Mm.
eventually. But you can choose to make it go a lot easier for yourself if you start to take that time now.
Oh, I love what you shared there, and I really resonate with it because myself, when I hit burnout, I didn't know that's what it was, but I would say to people now, I ignored a runway of red flags, and when I wouldn't listen, my body stopped me, and very effective, when you can't get up.
Yes.
And that's exactly what you're speaking to. I think your health starts to go because you can't ignore that. Thoughts going around in your mind, they go around in your mind. You can try and bat them away, but physical, very hard to ignore that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm so grateful to you for you doing your work and listening and trusting that so that you could also do the same thing. Step onto
Mhm.
this path that is now for you a much higher and better path of where your soul wants to go. And
Mm.
everything that you've learned up until this time and space is influencing and really, what's the word I'm trying to find? Like it's really you're taking all that wisdom with you and you're taking it
Mhm.
and using it forward. And that's what's
Yeah,
so exciting because then that gives you more joy and freedom and fun in what you're creating now.
absolutely. And it's when you were speaking earlier, that I now fully appreciate getting sick. And I can see it was one of the greatest gifts I've been given. And I loved when you were talking earlier about losing your job, and you're like, and it was one of the best things that's happened to me. And it's that, to be able to look on something which could be looked at as catastrophic, and to see the gift in it, that's quite something, right?
Absolutely.
Mm.
And at the same time, I was also listening along the way because I was really downsizing myself, right? And with my partner, Tim, one phrase we love to say is less is more. So we don't, we didn't need the big house. Like, so he has his home. I was able to put my stuff in storage. So all along the way, I was choosing to simplify my life
Mm.
and be able to be in a position then when I did lose my job, it wasn't as catastrophic because I didn't have all these bills that I had to pay. Now I had to pay for myself on the road, but,
Mhm.
so I had gotten myself out of debt. I put my nest egg away to have it start to grow a little bit, right? So
Mm.
I I was taking these steps so that when that did happen, I was able to pivot more
Yeah.
quickly because I was taking the steps.
Yeah. And it strikes me, as the result of what you've done, and you're now able to help others plan their intentional journeys. Your blog, Travels with Spirit. How do you see travel as a mirror for inner transformation?
Oh, wow. I love that question because for a lot of people, they may not want to travel, right? That may not be something that really calls to them. For me, I love experiencing new things. I love being able to be out in the world and experience different people and cultures and food. And no trip is ever perfect. and no trip is going to give you what you think that you may want. But if you stay open, it will give you what you need. And
Mm.
it will give you the freedom and the adventure and the joy, but then it's also going to stretch you to grow and to do new things. But that for me is what is so fun about life, is stepping into that, being able to be on your, what they often call your growth edge, right? And be able to experience something new. Um, all along this travel and even the last 6 months, I've actually been a lifelong traveler, but not to this extent, right? This is
Mm.
called what's called slow travel, where you go for months at a time and just, slow
Mm.
travel to where you can experience things at a much slower pace. But for example, getting laundry detergent in Italy when you don't know the language and you think you're getting the right thing and it actually ends up being bleach, and you put it
Oh
in with the
no.
clothes and thank God the clothes were okay, but like, I mean, it's just like, so you have these things where it's like, I mean, it's never going to be exactly what you think. No day is ever perfect, but it's
Mm.
being able to flow with it and being able to pivot and go, okay, how can I laugh at myself? And thank goodness the clothes were fine. And, or if they did get bleached out, I mean, it's just, but it's learning how to move with life. And for
Yeah.
me, travel is what gives me that. It gives me the adventure and the life of what I want. And so that's why I love supporting particularly women to go out there and
Mm.
do it and,
Yeah.
find things. So even if you don't have a partner, do you have a friend that you could go with? Or you might want to do a solo trip. And there are ways that we can work with that to where you'll be safe. And, so uh, yeah, that's what I love, and it inspires me, and I love to write, and so being able
Yeah.
to write the weekly blog about kind of what's happening and the people I meet and the experiences that we're having, it's just such a joy for me.
And you're also writing a new book, right? Which is really focusing in on the listen, trust, and act. And I'm just wondering what feels most alive for you as you're writing that new book?
So I had been it goes back to the divine right timing. So I knew over the summer, and I've actually known for the past year or so, maybe even 18 months, that I have a second book in me. And I want it to be a little bit more purposeful. So the first one was just, one that I kind of channel wrote. I was able to get it out there. But this one I want to have a little bit more structure and depth. So I had been reflecting on this, just kind of sitting with it. And then over the summer, it felt right to find someone to work with. So I found a book coach that I'm going to be working with. And I thought that I was going to be writing about the last 6-month journey that we had been on. And I was going to use the lessons and the stories of that past 6-month journey, but it wasn't
Mhm.
coming. It wasn't flowing, right? Like there wasn't like kind of this flow to it. So then I'm like, all right, I just need to pause it for now because it's not the right time. And now, since I've stepped on the road, we've been on the road now for about a month. And now I'm like, no, I'm going to write about this listen, trust, act framework because I really feel it's important because it's 3 simple words. It's a
Mm.
framework that you can use, and it's something
Mhm.
that's really going to be able to support you on your journey. So I'm just at the beginning stages of starting to write this, but again, I'm following the flow. And now I know it'll be much easier to write because I'm in the flow and it feels and it's in the divine, highest and best right time.
Mm. Mm. So again, you've embodied listen, trust, act by beginning to write it at the right time for you when you're ready.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow.
Listening for that kind of divine moment. And I think that's one other piece I would love to really impart with your audience is you will have these desires and these feelings of something that you want to come forward.
Mhm.
And even if it takes 3 months, 6 months, a year, 5 years, know that if that desire and that urge is there, keep
Mhm.
following it, even if it doesn't show up right away, because spirit is leading you in that direction. But it may not be
Mm.
on the timeline that you may particularly want, or you may feel like you're off path or off course. because it's not showing up
Mhm.
right away. But just know if that feeling and desire is there, it is there for you to bring forward. So just
Mhm.
keep trusting the steps, listening to that highest next step, and it will continue to show you the right way.
Wow. And I think it's a really timely reminder, because we're living in a much faster world. You know, we don't have to wait for things like we used to, and everything's so much faster. So it's a great reminder to trust. Um, and you've touched on it there, but just sort of finally, Diana, for a woman who's listening, who is feeling the nudge to step off her own path, but is really fearful of losing everything. What does listening, trusting, and acting look like in small, safe ways, or something little that she could do today?
Yeah, beautiful. There's a lot of different ways that I could answer that question. And I think what's really coming to heart is take a minute or two or five, just get quiet with yourself. Drop
Mm,
your energy into your body from your mind down into your soul and just ask the question, what is one step that I can do today?
mm,
And just get in that practice. Because when you can start to hear for every person, their own journey, of course, is so personal, but just asking that question. And then if it is, oh, go talk to this person, or go take a walk outside, or lay down for a half an hour, right? It's just learning to practice what comes through, trusting what you hear, and then acting on it. And
mm,
so that would be the small step. Start to hear yourself again. Start to really be able to trust yourself in
mm,
maybe a way that you haven't ever done that before. Because that's the best gift that not only you can do for yourself, but for the world at large. Because when we come back into our own power, into our own light, our own energy, that's where we affect and change the world. And so listening to your soul and the spirit
mm.
within will guide us all onto that higher and best path.
Wow. Thank you, Diana. And I just want to really highlight something that you've shared at the end there, because even something that we might think is small, like listening to yourself, like sitting down, we we do lots of those things without thinking, right? There's an unconscious element to the way we do a lot of things. And I think what you say there is a great reminder, because even though it may be something that you've done all the time, doing it consciously and with intent adds something else to it, right?
Absolutely. And I loved what
Mm.
you said earlier around the fact that things are changing so rapidly now, right? Time is
Mhm.
speeding up. Things are changing so much more quickly. We can also use that to our benefit as well. It is not going to
Mm.
take you as long to shift out of this as it did for me. I did this 10, 15 years ago when the energy was much different. It took me
Mhm.
years. It's not going to take you as long now because the energy has shifted on the planet. Things are faster, things are quicker. So
Mhm.
when you consciously choose to move into something now that really is for your highest and best, it will happen more quickly. So isn't that exciting? Right? It may not take
So
you 3 years
exciting.
now to transition. It may be 6 months or a year or 3 months, right? But the time
Yeah.
window has definitely shortened.
Yeah. If we just listen, trust, and act.
And act.
Oh, Dan, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. It has been wonderful, and I love your story. It's so inspirational, and we will share all of your details at the bottom of this episode. So where we can find you, your amazing blog, your TEDx talk, your book, and any other information we can share. I just really appreciate you having a chat with me today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kelly. It's just been such an honor to be here with you. And huge hugs and love to you and to all the people in your world and circle. And have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you. What I love most about this conversation is that Dianna reminds us that courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks like quiet listening, trusting the nudge, and taking one small step, even when you can't see where it leads. If this episode spoke to you, take a few minutes today to pause and ask yourself, what is one small step I can take right now? Then, as Dianna teaches, listen, trust, and act. You can find Dianna's blog, Travels with Spirit, her TEDx talk, and her book, The Destiny Path, linked in the show notes. If this episode helped you, follow the show, share it with a friend, and leave a quick review. It helps more women find these conversations. I'm Kelly Quiney, and this is Stepping Off the Path. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is begin again.